What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind-the-scenes stuff, arm yourselves, life stuff. As it turns out, that woman is a sociopath, and once again the cards were right. And this has opened up a number of questions, maybe reopened or refocused some others. As in, I think about my last major life relationship. And frankly, most of my relationships, barring a couple, I think I have a type and I don't know what it means. As in, I've been thinking a lot about my last major life relationship. If she was a sociopath, then so many things would make sense. And I don't mean that in a negative way. We got along, we loved one another because she was what she was. Yet, the way she approached love, also, the sociopathy would make that make a lot of sense. The point of this video is thinking about the noble sociopath, and then some societal stuff, which is the hypocrisy and numbness. Anyway, in my last major life relationship, one of the things my ex kept telling me was her career would always be more important to her than I was. But it never felt that way. It hurt to hear that, and it put me on edge because of my priorities and the way I state my priorities and wear them, as in she was my priority. But she kept telling me that now that I'm interacting with a diagnosed sociopath, who I believe to be a good person, maybe she was telling me that to protect me, maybe she was telling me that to protect herself. I mean, she did bullshit, but I never felt unloved. And there were other problems. As in, I don't think maturity is one stat. I think there are multiple forms and levels of maturity. And we were more and less mature than one another in different areas, not to mention the age difference. As in, we got to a point she was trying to muscle me out, make me less important, stated and unstated, without my leaving, and I didn't like that she was doing that while expecting me to stay. And a family is something I think I want. Now, I mean, back then it was a definitely. I don't know how we're gonna do this, I don't know how we're gonna make this work, but I definitely want it. Now, I'm less sure, but on a gut level, it's an almost certainly, but on an abstract thinking level, I don't know. But for me, kids was a hard yes. To her, kids was a hard no. She took a few months and thought about it and then came back to me. And I think it was at a bad moment, like we were arguing about something, and she dropped that on me. And then she took it a step further and tried to strong-arm me. Well, I don't want kids, and if you don't like it, then you can leave. And I left. And that didn't go over well. And then you get into that fucked up, get back together, but this isn't going to work, and it would be better to rip the Band-Aid off now and deal with it, take the pain. She didn't want to do that, and then it got ugly. The point is, I'm thinking about why she didn't want to have kids. And her reasoning was she was terrified she would be a bad mother. And not just a neglectful mother, but I mean a really awful mother. Which is, incidentally, what I feel about myself now in relation to fatherhood. And she had no diagnoses, but she knew something was up with her. I knew something was up with her, but again, that was why we clicked. And I'm wondering if it wasn't undiagnosed sociopathy. Experienced by a noble sociopath. We need to come up with a better word for these people. she wanted to protect our theoretical children from herself. Which, if that's what happened, then now I feel worse. I still don't regret that decision, but that takes a tragedy and twists the knife this many years later. And despite what she threatened to do to me, and I think what she completely had the capability of doing, despite all that, I still loved her, and I do still love her. I would never get back with her, especially now, but you don't share a connection like that with someone and then just make it go away. And if she has been able just to make it go away, which I'm sure she has, then I'm happy for her because I wouldn't want her carrying this sort of feeling around. And when I say this sort of feeling, I'm talking about some byproduct of love. I'm still carrying it around. And it's not related strictly to her, this is more in a wider sense, a wider experience of love. You reach a point you realize love does nothing for you. And maybe we'll need to add love to the title of this video. I wasn't expecting the video to go in this direction. At least this much. We're skipping some steps here too, going straight into other things. You realize if you're thinking about your life in a strategic sense, love is the worst decision you can make. Because looking at it from an outside vantage, love is the process by which someone makes a series of stupid decisions and then receives wounds that might scar over but will affect them for the rest of their lives. Just emotionally if you're lucky, but sometimes not. And even when it is just emotional scars, those will hurt forever. Falling in love is a bad move. And most tenderness or tendernesses in life are bad moves. Friendship, in the emotional sense, is a bad move. Fairness is a bad move. Empathy is a bad move. Sympathy is a bad move. Taking a chance on someone is a bad move. Giving someone a second chance is a bad move. Being open and honest with anyone is a bad move. And most media acts like these tendernesses are good moves that maybe despite needing to take a risk for them or getting burned sometimes, overall they're the right decision, and that is so not the case. So you go through it a number of times, and then you need to make a decision. And it reminds me of that Tom Hardy, Charles Bronson conversation about the river is rising, kid's arm is stuck in a drain or something, and he's going to drown. They couldn't save him in time. Bronson says, cut it off now, because you need to let part of yourself go sometimes in order to survive, no matter how much you love it. You reach a situation in life that's a lot like that, except the arm you would need to amputate is, or contains, all the things in life that would even possibly make life worth living. You need to amputate the possibility you could believe in and potentially find any of these tendernesses. Taking what might be a 3% chance of finding the smallest thing that could make life in any way meaningful or worth living, and reduce it to 0 and cut it off. And it's not even as simple as amputating an arm, because the fucker won't come off. It's gruesome. It's the daily act of sawing off anything good about yourself. And even if you do finally manage to get through and cut it off, the job isn't done because it'll start growing back. That's part of what being a human is. The pain of being a sentient, feeling person. And I think that's why Apocalypse Now speaks to me so much. That movie is so many things at every different time, but one of the things it is your descent into this amputation, literally into the heart of darkness. How do you confront what life is as a human? Do you do what most of the characters do, which is go into the thick of it and try just to keep doing what you normally do, being what you normally are, and then dying? Or are you someone who also doesn't want to change or confront themselves or confront certain realities about life while paying for that privilege with other people's lives? Or are you someone right hand pathy like Lance, who fades into the jungle, fades into reality? Essentially, he's still alive, but he's no longer centered. He becomes part of the wider centrality. I don't know how to describe this. The moment Lance puts on his face paint, he becomes a tree. Or are you someone like Kurtz, who tries to take more of a left-hand approach and can wield that inhumanity effectively, but in the process loses himself? Or are you someone like Willard, who also takes a Kurtzian left-hand path approach, but can sell it, or can maintain self with it, survive with it? Or maybe the only reason Willard didn't become Kurtz was because Willard managed not to go as far as Kurtz did and didn't overexpose himself to reality. But Willard is insane. None of that matters for this conversation. To deal with the cruelty and hypocrisy and absurdity of this world, you need to inhumanize yourself daily, the way Joshua Graham replaces his bandages daily. And it feels like a descent, a daily descent, a daily agony. And this is a consequence of love and all the other tendernesses. There are two ways of processing it. Apocalypse Now is the first part, the descending and the amputating, and then there's also Gimme Shelter, which is one of my top two favorite songs, which to me feels like running away afterward. You've gone down and you've ritually sacrificed parts of yourself that you will be damned to hell for sacrificing, despite the necessity of sacrificing them. And now all you can do is run until the next thing happens, and it'll be just as ugly and just as awful, and you'll be even more damned, but that's what life is. And not in a... I like Gimme Shelter and the way it makes me feel this, because it's not like you're dying a death. You're still alive, and you need to move. And my point of discussing these things is these two feelings combined create the sort of numbness I aspire to in relation to love and tenderness and kindness and all these things. Because this woman made the point, despite her saying she doesn't want to love, she has trouble getting attached, she's not interested in getting attached, I'm the one who's running. I'm the one not getting off the boat, and as Apocalypse Now enjoyers will know, you never get off the boat, goddamned right, not unless you're going all the way, which is also key, but we'll get to that. And she was completely right. And she was right about a bunch of things. I was doing that before she said anything about not wanting to love or not wanting to get attached. And she got the impression I operate this way with everybody. Even if someone, let's say, did say they wanted to love and get attached, I would still treat them the way I've been treating her, and she is so right about that. Because I do want things like love and tenderness and attachment, but that's a paradox. That's another paradox, John. The thing you want most on an innocent, pure level is also the thing you have been training yourself, brutalizing yourself with discipline and strategy and brainwashing reinforcement daily to amputate and to run away from. She got me. I don't know what to do about that. Now, the decision I've made is to pull myself kicking and screaming off the boat and to try to go all the way. Knowing this will not end well, and nothing good can come of this, I'm going to get off the boat and see what happens. Will we turn into Lance? Will we turn into Kurtz? Will we turn into Willard? Or will we get our head cut off? Or will we be cutting heads off? I don't know. I don't know that. I don't think anyone can know that. All I know is there will be blood. Anyway, with this woman, I'm going to try to force myself to let myself feel love instead of fighting it and cutting it off and running. And she's telling me she'll never love me, and maybe in a neurotypical, or by a neurotypical definition, she's right, but something's going on there, and she's made an effort not to manipulate me too much. And she's hard to figure out. It's like her, from what I've seen of her, it's like her mind and heart are a series of boundaries with specific areas, and it feels very Guantanamo-ish. Because in my interacting with her, it's been nothing but many interlocking contradictions. For example, she understands my desire not to attach, which is funny because she's the one who's telling me she doesn't want to attach, meaning I am just as contradictory, if not more. I'm not acting like my hands are clean, and she respects my decision to walk away, and she doesn't want to attach, but then she manipulates me in really the only way I could see it, her being able to do it, to get me to come back, and now we're here. In other words, I'm someone who overtly wants to attach but unconsciously doesn't. She's someone who overtly doesn't want to attach but unconsciously does. And I've been watching a bunch of shit about sociopaths, not from the old wrinkle bitch channels, which we're gonna get to, but from, sociopaths. From where I'm standing right now, she looks to me like a human being who operates by a different set of rules. As in, if a living being could be a separate language. As in, she's not monstrous by default because she's different. Rather, it's a matter of figuring out the linguistics of her being and trying to meet her on those terms. And I am drawn to her because I feel like she's done the same for me so far. Now, of course, the reality of all this we'll learn, maybe it's in a week, in a month, maybe even a year, but she is actually a complete and total monster, and my soul will be even more shattered, and I'll need to Willard Max for at least 5 years to recover. but maybe not. I'm doing, what is it, the sister, whatever her name is from Red Dead 2, taking a gamble that love exists. Even if it's in a different language. And this is another one of those unconscious things. Maybe this is why Jake showed up. I don't think I'll ever be able to get off the boat totally. I think I'll pull some Viking shit and drag that bastard inland instead of letting go of my boat. But I don't know. The thing about all this is life is patterns, right? What are the odds you've actually found an exception in the pattern? But these exceptions do exist. Putting it into perspective, your existence is exceptional. Her existence is exceptional. And that's only half a joke. I've learned from dealing with psychopaths professionally. 1, you're not immune to propaganda. 2, you think your bullshit detectors are good. They're good against normal people. They are not good against these sorts of people. And through them, your arrogance will be your teacher. And 3, when you're really fooled, you are not fooled in some minor or petty way. You are fooled extravagantly. And you will pay for it extravagantly. And she keeps telling me she's been honest with me, and I'm trying to believe her at face value, and I do feel she's been honest about most things. But call it a mixture of intuition and linguistics, but I know she's lying to me about something. And if she isn't, then I'll feel bad, and I wrote about this in my notes. I hate the fact that I always feel like I need to wait to see the smoking gun to react. But again, I'm taking a gamble. Love exists or goodness exists. I will overlook this, and I will be made to regret it because of the precedent it sets. And my saying this is proof I'll never give up my boat totally. Never. Even if I am losing my mind here and inventing things. A fucking specter made of dust and air will be enough reason for me to keep my boat at least a little bit. But she is masterful at manipulation. She's so good at it, I can see it happening, and I still choose to go along with it. That's how she got back into contact with me. I never want to see you again, never want to talk to you again. I want to abort this before it turns into anything real. But, and it's always a but, you need to cut it off if there is a serious emergency. You can contact me through this channel. And she used that channel. And I knew it wasn't an emergency. But I justified it to myself over the course of 8 hours and got back in touch with her. And it wasn't an emergency. And now we're here. You ever watch the video of that baby monkey getting dragged around by a leopard and at one point it just lets go, accepts its fate? That's how I'm feeling right now. What's painful is I do have a choice in this. She is just so tempting, I can't say no. And again, I do want to believe her. I think it's more than I want to believe her. I think she... a long time ago. I don't remember what the video was, but do you remember that saga on this channel in which we talked about that painting that was stolen and the suspicious means how this person came into it, but he wanted to get it back to the original owner, and he wanted me to be a go-between, and every single person said, don't do it, this does not pass the smell test. In fact, it didn't even pass my smell test. But I did it anyway because the situation was so fucked, and the original artist This was one of his masterworks. He's never been able to paint something like this again. If I were him, would I want someone to help me despite it not passing the smell test? Yes. And I helped, and everything turned out okay. In fact, I got an update on it. It's in a museum now. It is featured in some museum. That entire saga was an exception of exceptions. Everything about it felt and looked wrong, and it turned out to be right. Maybe it's the same case with her. I don't know. Anyway, this all got me thinking about the mental health community and good people. You know what I think about, quotes, good people. Anyone who makes a show of goodness or who tries to convince you of how good they are is probably a demon. I'm not joking about this, I'm not overstating. If anyone tries to present themselves to you or to others as a good person, especially if it's early on and you're dealing with them, do not trust them. This feels like some young shadow flabbergabbery, but in my experience, anyone who tries to present themselves to you as a good person in any overt way is will be a big problem for you. Don't trust that shit. But see, that's what you get. That's the entirety of what the online mental health community is. The wrinkle bitches, the fucking nerds, the dweeby little paste necks, even when they aren't white. That entire community is a pressure cooker of repressed shadows. I'd trust an honest sociopath over any one of those people, these neurotypical people, any time. And in dealing with the psychopaths I've had to deal with over the last few years, we've joked about the fact I think psychopaths are actually most in need of advocacy and empathy. But it's not a joke. Psychopaths are a little different from sociopaths because I view psychopaths as rabid animals. Default prejudice against them isn't a bad idea. But that's even more of a reason they need advocacy and help. And that's what the mental health community is supposed to do, isn't it? But the mental health community and mental health people as a whole, they have a gross, spiny energy to all of them, despite the ways they present themselves. Their answer to psychopaths is to treat them like Salem witches, basically. There's not just a hatred of them, there is a hysterical hatred of them. And when that's the default, what do you expect from these people? Their levels of, in terms of your brain working, deviance from the norm. Psychopaths are highly deviant, and that's not helped by the way media treats psychopaths. Media says they're all monsters, society says they're all monsters, and, or what I should say, I mean, that those are problems, but I'm bringing this up because if they wanted to try to interface with society and people, this is like the beach they're landing on. It's Normandy. They'll probably get killed before they even have the chance, so why should they bother? Now again, this isn't my championing psychopaths. They are xeno enough. I don't feel like it's worth it to me personally, but commenting on the values, mental health and society, good, polite, kind society, is supposed to be championing, there is a deep hypocrisy there. And the reason I talk about all this is to get into sociopaths. Based on this new woman I'm speaking with, oh, and you watch videos of sociopaths, you watch interviews of sociopaths, there's that very popular one. And if you don't have any experience, personal experience with them, it's suspicious. And maybe it's the right move to feel that way, but again, we're taking a gamble here. This new woman I'm speaking with, if my ex was a sociopath, then sociopaths are not like animals. Again, with psychopaths, I view them as rabid animals because they look human, they'll act human, people act like they're masterminds. That, at least to me, hasn't been the case because they're bad at predictive work. Most psychopaths aren't sophisticated enough to blend in. But again, maybe that's my arrogance. Maybe the psychopaths who can blend in are so good at blending in, you will never know. But I'm not sure. But you take them and compare them to these sociopaths. Sociopaths feel more like people who come from a very different culture. But it's not a geographical culture, instead a mimetic culture. As in, it feels like some For Honor shit. Different cultures of different time periods clashing that are so basically different, they feel like different species, but they aren't. And that's the key. I don't know how to describe this. It feels like international relations within one nation. You're from the nation of baseline, and they are from the nation of sociopathy. Your values are very different, but you still have values. Your boundaries are very different, but you still have boundaries. It's like a customs thing. I don't remember which stupid culture it is, but burping is supposed to be a sign of respect in some cultures, whereas in more civilized cultures, that's fucking disgusting. But you can get along. The differences are close to fundamental and might breach into fundamental in a few areas, but it's not a 100% across the board total fundamental difference. And even if they were all fundamental difference, it's not oppositional necessarily. Oh, and maybe that's why I feel so drawn to her. This is international relations. This is trying to bring together very different people. Maybe with her, I'm supposed to learn how to do that, how to bridge that gap between willing parties, when otherwise the differences or the depths of the misunderstandings would keep two groups who want to be together separate. And I'm not trivializing the differences here. I had a physical reaction to her when we first started talking. My spine still doesn't like her. It's only just now my mind and my heart are calming down a little bit, but my nervous system still smells something very wrong with her and is signaling every warning bell it can. Feel like I have vice grips on my neck. But there are certain instances you need to try if you intend to do anything abnormal. There is some reason we linked up, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the skill that needs to be developed. Because it seems like there are a good number of, again, we need a good word for them, but noble sociopaths. Ones who, despite the stigma they are chained down with, and the differences, I mean, baseline people don't want to try to resolve differences, small differences among themselves. They'd rather kill each other. They see that and know just how different they are from these animals who want to kill one another over nothing and still try to connect or live good lives or make the world better. And I think for a bunch of reasons, we need to figure out how to bridge this gap instead of acting like Puritans who want to burn witches. Or maybe tomorrow she'll tell me my breath stinks and I'll put on a white collar and a hat with a buckle on it and grab a torch. Who knows? At this point, I think I can deal with strictly emotional pain. And in terms of physical pain, I'm always carrying. And that's actually getting a little more extreme because my vibes in this area are getting whacked out. But what I'm hoping is I haven't gotten this all wrong. I hope my nose is right about this interpersonal understanding and bridging opportunity. I hope I'm able to learn something useful, pick up skills that will come in handy further down the line. And I really hope I don't fuck this up. Whatever's happening here, however it turns out, it feels important. But once again, I don't know. Society stinks. People stink. People are like languages, not like people. And when you're feeling some kind of disconnect and fear, consider the possibility you're both literally speaking the same language, but you're trying to interface with them in your language, and they're trying to interface with you in yours, or theirs, or maybe they're trying to do it in yours, but English isn't their first language. It's a communication issue. I don't think with most people, if they want to get along, you can't get along. The issue is that most people's souls are rotten, and they force you to live in a world in which you need to make your soul more rotten than it already is, when they all deserve damnation. But we'll cut it here. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.